Hi guys, welcome to this video for D100 Dungeon World Builder video. This World Builder is the add-on that allows you to do a bit of adventuring outside of the dungeons for a change. In today's video we're going to be looking at the mounts that you may find or buy or come across during the course of the World Builder game. I've done a series of videos for the World Builder. If you haven't seen them, please do go back and check them out. Some of them you might find quite interesting. It gives a bit of an insight on how all the different parts of the game operate and work, and they might be useful to you. We've been building up a bit of a, if I can find the correct sheet, a bit of a hex sheet. I think it's in here. Yeah. Of our area. This is the starting setup map, and we explained in some of the videos about moving to different zones, different terrains. You're going to need a mount, so this section we're going to look at mounts in a bit more detail. We'll start off with, I'll go through it in the book as well so I don't miss anything, but basically if you want to perform a ride action, and there's a video for all the different types of actions and how they work, so I won't cover the ride action again, basically you need a mount, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, and we'll have a quick look at a mount sheet. If you don't want to, we won't look at it in too much detail, but we'll have a look at a few different mounts. So for instance, mounting goat, donkeys, mule, dire wolf, camels, great boars, horses, war horses, giant otters and so forth. There's quite a lot of different types of mounts that you might find or come across during the course of the game. There's also some really special mounts that are found on what's called unique quests, which you might come across while you're playing the game. But primarily, your first horse will probably be the horse that you've bought from a settlement. Okay, so the first thing to be aware of is that you can have up to 6 mounts at any given time. That's your sort of limit, and going to find the mount sheet. So this is the mount sheet, and when you find a mount, what you will do is you will start storing it in the first slot on your mount sheet. You gain a mount, you write down the name. You can generate a name yourself, or you can roll on table N and use the mounts column. Now these are just examples of names for mounts that you might like, but they're primarily for naming horses, as they're going to pretty much be your main type of mount that you'll come across. And there's all manner of different names, from Blue Eyes to Forest and Freckles, Fury, Shadow and so forth. So if you're stuck for a name or it doesn't interest you, you can always make a quick roll and write the name of your horse there, and then you record the type of your horse, the type of mount in this section, and it'll give you instructions in the book as to what you should be recording your type as. And then some of the mounts have special benefits and abilities, and so you can record them in the notes section there. There's a space here for you to record rations. Each mount can carry 30 rations, and it's important when you acquire your mount for the first time, they always come with a full complement of trappings. You don't need to buy saddles or stirrups or anything like that, that's all included, but you can add these saddle bags, and each saddle bag that you buy, if you bought say one saddle bag, you would shade in this first box here and this first box here, and that's telling you that that slot is now available for you to put items in. You get one slot for items with damage tracks, so you can put your armour or weapons in those slots, and then the other slot opens up 2 for carrying items that don't have a damage track. So for instance, you could have up to 10 potions of healing, or up to 10 potions of remove poison, and so forth. So that gives you 20 items to carry. They have to be the same, so you have to have 10 of the same item and 10 of the same item, but it does open up a bit more options for carrying around equipment. Okay, so let's have a look. It's recommended that you probably have no more than 2 mounts, although you can have 6 in total. Bear in mind, every time you need to spend an action point, you've got to feed yourself and your mount. When you're stowing items to and from your mount sheet to your adventure sheet, you can do that any time during the World Builder game phase, the World Builder part of the game. You can't do it when you're on a quest, and you can't do it if you're playing the World Builder game and you're in combat. So at some point you might just end up in a tuffle, an encounter during the World Builder part. You can't swap equipment backwards and forwards, but primarily you can do it any time when not involved in those occasions. And you just basically, you would take, if I wanted to put my mace here, I'd just write the details into here and rub it off here, and if I wanted to re-equip my mace, I could then take the details from here, wipe them off and put them on there. So it's pretty standard sort of stuff, swapping equipment backwards and forwards. Okay, so feeding, rations and malnutrition. So as I said, every time you spend an action point for yourself, moving or taking these actions that are on the action sheet here, you're going to be spending 1 ration for yourself and 1 for each of your mounts. So you can either take that ration cost from the ration section on your mount sheet, or you can do it from your calendar sheet and spend those there, or vice versa. You could take 1 point from your mount and 1 point from your calendar sheet. It doesn't matter, as long as the action, the rations are paid for by the mount and 1 for yourself. It doesn't matter from which section it comes from. Okay, so that's the rations. If you don't feed your mount, then you will suffer the mount will suffer 1 malnutrition point. So if we didn't feed, say we didn't have enough rations to feed our mount, then they would actually shade in 1 pip on this track, and they're suffering slightly from the effects of malnutrition. However, if you end up filling up all of these, what's going to happen then is you're no longer able to use that mount for riding tests. So you might have others that you can use, and you can drag this one along with you, but for that mount in particular, you wouldn't be able to make a riding test on that mount until it had got rid of some of these malnutrition pips. And the way you get rid of malnutrition is to feed them double rations. So any time that you're about to feed a mount, you would normally give them one ration. If you was to give them 2 rations, you could remove 1 of these pips. However, you can't give them an extra 1 on top of that to remove 2. It has to be done for each action point. Each day is spent would remove 1. You could feed double rations for that particular day, and only that particular day, and it would just remove 1 of these malnutrition points. There's different types and mounts, and like we said, you write the type in and you name them, and all that information is stored within the book as to what they will be called, and again with the notes section as well. Next thing to really look at is when you go off on a quest or a side quest, you're going to be leaving your mount behind, and basically there's a percentage chance that's accumulated depending on how long you've been in the dungeon. So when we're playing in the dungeon, our action points that we're spending, each time the time track is refreshed to this point, we have to shade in 1 of these pips on the time track, and then when we've finished the quest, we count up each of these pips and that is how long we've left our mount for. So each one of them pips is worth 5%. So if we'd been on a quest and say shaded in those first 3 pips, we would count them up, 1, 2, 3, that's 15, 5 for each. There's a 15% chance that any of our mounts that we've left when we've been off dungeoning have suffered some type of ill effect. And so what you would do is you would roll the dice, and that we've rolled 03, so in that example our mounts would have been affected. And then what you do then is for each mount that you have, you roll 1d10 on this table. And so let's say we had 2 mounts, so I'll shade in these 2 boxes here. We would roll twice on this table. So we roll once to see if our mounts are affected based on our time, our quest time track there, which was 15%. They are affected, so now we roll once for each of our mounts, and you roll the d10. So we're going to roll 1 for the first mount. So our first mount was a 9, and then we roll for our second mount. Our second mount is an 8, and we look up those results on this table, but we don't apply anything until we've completed all of our mounts. So our first one is 9. The mount has been killed and eaten. A pile of gnawed bones are all that remain of the mount. Remove the mount. Then, as the adventurer is taken in the scene, the monster returns. See the monster event. Okay, so in that particular instance we actually rolled an 8 and a 9, so both of our mounts have actually been eaten. So we had quite a bad result there, and now we need to turn to the monster result in the events section. So you'd find monster, and then you would deal to find out what monster had eaten our mounts. Now, while that may seem quite drastic, there are some mounts that will not get eaten because they are to themselves, and there's other things as well, other mounts. I won't go into too many details because I don't want to spoil it for you, but there are other mounts that have other abilities as well that will negate movement penalties for moving between areas and so forth. So and again, that was quite some bad rolling there. I mean, rolling 15% or less was quite unfortunate as well. Okay, there is a section here where it says your mount has been stolen, and so what you would do if we'd rolled that one, what we would do is it would put, when you finish checking each mount, you must circle the current date and add a small arrow. So the current date would be, for us, would be the 4th. So we'd circle that date, we'd add an arrow over the top to say there's an ongoing effect, and then on the back of the sheet we'd write the current date, which I think was the 4th of the 1st, 72 I think it was. 72, 4th of the 1st, yeah. I know in the UK we record our dates this way. In the States you record it, I think it's the 1st of the 4th, 72. You'd put your month before the day and so forth. So you can record it whichever way is familiar with yourself. I'm from the UK, that's how we usually do our dates. So and I'm not sure about other countries how you record your dates either, so as long as you've got a date there that's you understand, that's fine. And then we just add this note which says the date, which is there, stolen mount, and then we write the type down, which was a, let's say it was a horse. You write down horse. Okay, when at settlement, not campsite, I'm going to put a triangle for that to shorthand it. Make a stolen mount check. Okay, I'm writing this pretty scruffily. Okay, and it's got information here. It says replace the keyword type with the type of mount they're stolen. If more than one mount is stolen, so if we'd had, that's why we didn't do the results all together, because we could have rolled multiple mounts that were stolen. You would add in the type. You would put, if I'd had say 2 horses, I would put horses times 2 to tell me that 2 of my horses were stolen, and then you'd remove them from the mount sheet then. So if one of my mounts was stolen, you would rub out all the information for that mount. Let's say it was number 2. Okay, and then if you didn't see the calendar video, it might be worth checking out that video. But basically that means that from that point on, because there's an arrow above that date, while I'm playing, I would be aware that next time I go into a settlement, or whenever I go into a settlement, I need to make a stolen mount check. And there's a section here that deals with how you deal with that. Basically, you count the number of days that have expired on the calendar, and that's your percentage chance. I believe yeah, you need to roll equal or higher than the number of days that have expired. So you can see the longer you leave it before you go into a settlement, the less chance there is that you're going to actually recover your mounts. Because if you roll equal to or above, you remove the arrow from the date, you remove that arrow there, and that tells you there's no longer an ongoing effect. If you roll equal to or below, then you leave it intact, and you continue to search. Each time you go to a settlement, you continue to see whether you might actually come across your mount. If the result is equal to or more than the number of days that have expired, the adventurer spots the mount or the mounts stolen, and the thief go to section 3. So section 3 says if the mount thief is detected, the adventurer removes the small arrow from the above the circle date for the mount theft and places a line through the triggered entry on the reverse. So we would do that. Okay, we would remove that little arrow above there to say that we'd found our mount thief, and it's no longer we need to check for it. And then we select one of the following options on how we wish to deal with that theft. So one is we do nothing and let the theft go unanswered. Another one is report the thief to the settlement's authorities, see report mount theft event, and in that case you would look up the mount theft in the events, and you'd follow the instructions in the event section. So I'm looking up report mount theft. What am I looking up? Report mount theft. Okay. Report mount theft there. And or confront mount thief, or steal the mounts back. We go to the steal mount effect and so forth. And then it says number 4, it says the mounts will be returned to the adventurer if the events are successful. All mounts are returned less any rations and saddlebags they had been stolen. If the event fails, the adventurer must concede that their mounts are lost forever, and the stolen mount check may not be reattempted again for this date. Okay, so that's a bit of an insight on how to play out a mount theft. Hopefully you won't have to encounter that at all or fairly soon into your game, but if you do, just gives you a bit of an insight and also a bit of how these events work on the calendar and how they are ongoing. So the world isn't just I've done that, finished with. There's things that crop up and will occur as and when you go through the game. Okay, another thing to bear in mind is if you lose mounts, if you want to sell a mount, you can do. Its value is recorded in the notes section of the game. You can't sell a mount that's got malnutrition. Nobody will buy a mount that's looking like it's on its last legs. Nobody's interested in that. So you need to make sure that it's got no malnutrition, and then it will sell for its full value. And then what else have we got? Losing a mount. If for some reason you lose a random mount and you need to know which one it is, what you would do is you would roll 1d6, and so you would lose whichever mount that you rolled. So they're listed from 1 to 6. And if you sell a mount or you want to, these saddlebags, if you had a mount with a saddlebag and you wanted to sell that mount, or you wanted to move a saddlebag from one mount to another, you can do that freely as long as you're not in combat or on a quest. And you can store saddlebags in these slots here, 1 saddlebag per slot. So they're quite heavy and they take up a lot of room in your backpack if you're going to carry them around. I think that pretty much wraps up about the mounts. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.